From the pub to emergency resus. Not many people will have been in a resus department. I was, when I was at work, I was a police officer in the West End of London. Obviously it's different then. But to be in a resus department as a patient is the most frightening thing I've ever experienced in my life. I started off like probably most of you, drinking steadily, socially, late teens, early 20s. That continued. I was on and off a little bit. Had some spells sober, relapsed. That seemed to be the pattern. In my 40s, then I stopped for 8 years. Relapsed in 2014, and then I self-medicated in 2019 because the doctors wouldn't give me any diazepam. I couldn't get much help other than self-help groups and mental health teams. I needed some medication, basically. So I just continued to drink, got myself more and more ill. I was so frightened to stop cold turkey because I'd had seizures in the past. I tried to taper off numerous times. Went from 10 down to 1 over a long period of time. Then I would feel better and start to drink again. So for me, and maybe people who are dependent on it, you can't just stop or even taper off. You've got to see a doctor in the end. And I only stopped because I was taken to hospital. So I got back to resus bit. 2019, I was taken into hospital with ascites fluid, huge distended stomach, and spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, really dangerous. And I continued to drain fluid off my stomach. Issues with my liver, and when you've got this ascites builds up in your stomach lining, and your belly button is really protrudes. It's called an umbilical hernia, and the skin around that gets very thin over time because the fluid's got to go somewhere, and that's the weakest point apparently. So every few weeks I was getting this ascites fluid drained off. What they do is make an incision into your side and put a feed a needle in about 10 inches long, but it's about like a knitting needle, a thin knitting needle, and then they drain this fluid off. It takes about 8 hours to drain this fluid off. The most I had drained off was 26 litres in one go. That meant that's 26 kilograms of weight. I was doing that every 3 weeks, but this umbilical hernia hadn't been addressed. It was huge, about the size of 2 tennis balls, protruding from my stomach, and the skin was very thin. It was all during COVID, and it was difficult to get this sorted. And when I used to go to the hospital, he said, "When is this going to get sorted?" And he used to say to me, "It will only get sorted when it's an emergency." And that was it. It's fine. I thought, well, it isn't fine. It doesn't look fine to me. It didn't feel fine because I couldn't lie on my side. If I lay on my side, I could feel it, so the fluid moving around. It's bizarre feeling, and you looked terrible because you've got this stomach that's swollen and this huge hernia on top of it. As time went on, I had a few procedures done, but the ascites fluid was still building up every 3 to 4 weeks. And that was sort of arranged to go into hospital. It was a day procedure. Every 3 to 4 weeks would drain off another 15, 20 litres. Basically, I thought I thought it was the end of the road for me, because I couldn't seem to fix this. I tried water tablets, I tried this paracentesis, I think it's called, where they actually drain the fluid off. You can't keep going in every 3 weeks, it's madness. But I was trying to eat better, this sort of thing. The ascites fluid just will not shift. It kept building up. I remember I was living with my parents at the time, and I noticed this. It was the early afternoon, about 1 o'clock, it was a sunny day. About 18 months into this, it must have been about mid-2020. Mid-2021 even. I noticed this hernia was seeming to be bigger than ever. And I noticed that the skin was looking very thin, so I put some cream on it, and it started to seep a little bit with blood. Oh God, I'll have to stem that. So I got some bandages. Well, my dad got some bandages. I tried to stop it. It wouldn't stop, and the blood sort of flowed a little bit faster. So rang 999. Total panic, because I'd done some research on this ascites fluid, and apparently, if it leaks, then it's curtains really, because you could get an infection into your abdomen, and it'll just cause total organ failure. The ambulance arrived, took one look at me, and you could tell by the look in the guy's face with 2 of them. this is serious. So they wouldn't let me walk to the door. Well, I could walk to the door, but with help. But they wouldn't let me go in a chair. I had to be put on a stretcher. I was at my parents' house with Lily at the time. Horrendous for them. Maybe we put put a blast bandage on me. They're used for, it's in the name, isn't it? Used after an explosive incident. There's a lot of heavy bleeding. It's really tight around the abdomen. And I got into the back of the ambulance. It didn't move from outside the drive. It was still on the drive at this point. And I was in such pain with this bandage. Well, it wasn't a bandage, it was more like the sort of thing weightlifters wear. Really, really wide belted thing. So put the blue lights on and went towards an A&E hospital. And I was still coughing. I just couldn't get my breath properly. But the blood was spurting out even through this explosive bandage, blast bandage. Anyway, put another one on top of that one. And the blood was still coming out. So he got on the radio and I heard him say, can we have a crash team ready? So I thought, well, I'm going to be rushed into A&E. They'll see me first, you know, that sort of thing. Anyway, he drove into the hospital. As I said, during COVID, so it was so busy at the hospital. Reversed into the RESUS. I thought, RESUS, that's not the right place. Wheeled me into the RESUS department. There was nobody in there apart from doctors and nurses. And they put so many things on me and this and the other, and put an oxygen mask on me, and I was still bleeding. This huge umbilical hernia. Imagine 2 tennis balls, that was the size of it. And blood, not spurting out, but flowing out. And at that time, I looked to my right and there was a surgeon with his kit ready. By that I mean the needle and whatever they used to stitch you up, really. So he just took one look at me. He said, there is no time for anaesthetic. I'm going to try and stitch this split in the hernia. If this doesn't work, then there isn't much more we can do. So total panic, and then thoughts of, well, I've had an interesting life. You know, I'm 58, or whatever it was at the time, and I thought, well, that's it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I sort of came to terms with it in a funny sort of way. There's all this, I was kind of panicking in the research department. There was all this quiet running around, if that makes sense, taking blood and putting things in you, picking things out of you. Anyway, stitched this up. I didn't feel any pain. I was too shocked. They put a bandage on top of the stitching, obviously, and about 2 or 3 hours later, I was taken out of there to an observation ward, and they didn't look at it, they just left it. The next day, one of the doctors came in, and he said that was really nip and tuck. That he said, it looks as if, he took the bandage off, and I was so worried in case it started to bleed again. He said, it looks as if it's knit together, because the hemoglobin level was okay, and the blood clotting was all right. And I thought, well, at least that's done, you know. What a shock. Well, it wasn't a shock, it was so frightening. I was terrified, obviously. And he said, we're going to transfer you to another hospital to have this umbilical hernia repaired. By that I mean they take it away and take all the fluid off. And I thought, oh, we can't be doing that, we can't be doing that. So I can't be in 2 different hospitals, all in 24 hours. He said, it's an emergency operation. This, as I said, during COVID. They took me to another hospital, and 2 days later I had this surgeon come round, head of surgery. So I'll fix this for you. Beautiful guy, confident, puts you at ease. I went in for surgery then. Before I went in for surgery was 2, and this is this, how do you say that? 2 anaesthetic doctors. And I thought, we've got 2 here, it's, you know, big boys operation this. I wasn't sure I'd survive. And I just sort of said to myself, goodbye world. About 4 hours later, apparently, I woke up and it had been fixed to some degree. They'd taken the hernia away and drained all the fluid off, this, that and the other. And I felt so elated to be alive. I rang my daughter up and she said, God, Dad, you sound absolutely hyper. But I was so happy to be alive. And that's what happened to me, and I'm thinking, well, at least that's over. Went home a few weeks later, and the fluid was still building up. They did another procedure, and eventually that came down. And the umbilical hernia was taken away, and it's just a big scar across my stomach now. So that was another life-saving operation I had. And it's just, a warning to people, you know, you start off in the pub having a few drinks, you're going to end up dead if you carry on. If I'd had another few weeks of drinking, I'd have been dead. Well, you know, long ago. And the resus department is not a good place to be. I never ever thought in my life I would end up there. I'm still shocked to this day I was taken there, to be fair. If you're benefiting from the videos, then please subscribe and share them, because there's a lot of people with alcohol problems. If you want to leave a comment, please do. And I'll speak to you all very soon, and keep sober, keep happy, keep healthy.